Welcome back to the SPL. It's time to continue Europe. I'm going to start things off in the second set of today with a very interesting one, Rival versus Dignitas.
It's going to be a very epic set. If we look at the European standings, we're going to see that Dignitas at the top of the European standings already pretty much clinched their spot to Valencia. The question is, are they going to finish that first place or not?
And the big thing is, we just saw Obey manage to get an important 3 points for themselves to give them that second place spot, especially with Rival and Energy still to play today. They need 2-0s as well to try and keep even keel and potentially put Enix out of the running. But Rival's going to take on Dig.
Rival are not too far behind Dignitas or Obey Alliance, sitting at 9 points. And Dignitas, they don't have as much to play for compared to Rival that still need to clench their spot into Valencia. But Dignitas definitely still wants to get that #1 seed, get an easier time once the LAN begins.
Precisely, because obviously the seeding is still important for these teams. 4 teams from EU, 3 teams from NA will make it. And so the top 4 in EU is very, very close still, with Enix still hot on the heels. And even the teams like Elevate still not completely out of the running. Or are they after that set?
After 4 points, I think that they have a large hill to climb. I don't think that it's mathematically possible for them.
Tricky couple of weeks for the teams. Obviously, there's the last weekend before one more weekend left. Let's go into picks and bans, though, and see how this one breaks down between Dignitas and Rival. And at the start of this one, it will be Dignitas with the first pick.
I wouldn't be surprised here to see some aggressive starts out of either of these two teams. Dignitas has been known between their jungler QvoFred here and Zyrhoes to really control the pacing of the game in that mid-laning phase. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some like Susanos, Sarkets, Najas, like anything aggressive.
Surprised to see Rival banning out Fafnir themselves, especially when they do have Callus there. We saw NNG leave it up against Dignitas earlier on this week, and Fafnir was taken, so not a surprise to maybe see that banned, I guess.
Well, the thing is, Callus and Trixtank have such similar play styles that Fafnir is basically a plug-and-play for both of them, and the fact that Team Rival is that second pick, Team Dignitas would more than likely first pick it.
Well, Sol locked in straight away for Dignitas, not a real surprise there. Zyrhoes loves it in the mid lane. They're not too scared to flex it to the Hunter role, but I don't think that's something they're going to do with Arkkyl. Arkkyl really likes his physicals.
He really likes to be physical also in that dual lane, just to find those 1v1 boxing potentials, and Rival is going to lock in that Rom for vote, recognizing that more than likely this Sol will be in that mid-mage position, so there's still a physical Hunter out there for Dignitas.
Well, Rival do get to lock in their first physical Hunter of choice themselves and take the Bellona alongside it. Dignitas will pick up the Camazotz, which is semi-flexible to the solo lane. We don't see too much of it, though.
We saw Variety played a numerous amount of times at the lands, whether it was Worlds, whether it was the Spring Split land also, but with QvoFred playing it recently, especially with Osiris being locked in, that pretty much dictates where that Camazotz is going.
And Geb will immediately be locked in by Rival as well. We've seen quite a bit of Geb out of Rival so far. They have been using it flexingly towards the solo lane, at least Deathwalker already once, and leaving it up as an option is available to them, especially if Bellona does go into the jungle.
And knowing how aggressive iceicebaby is out of the jungle, it makes perfect sense to go for such a defensive support. But I am a little surprised that they didn't lock in the Khepri for themselves, but they do ban it away from Trixtank.
Well, one more ban for Dignitas before Rival get their next pick, and more than likely I'm expecting here their mid laner will get locked in. They'll try and leave the jungle a little bit more flexible, I guess, unless they're worried about that.
The fact that Susanoo was banned at the second stage is really surprising to me. A lot of flexibility for both of these junglers. Normally you see QvoFred locking in the Hunbats and people target banning him, but this time iceicebaby has made his name known and now he's getting respect banned.
A Sobek for Trixtank. It's not something we see too often. I mean, obviously Trixtank likes his aggressive gods, but Sobek's never really been one that's always stood out for him in terms of his aggression.
I can't remember the last time Trixtank actually played Sobek in that dual lane. I can actually withdraw where he played Sun Wukong more than he played Sobek, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of surprised to see it locked in, because it's not something that you normally go to. Isis is the final pick for the mid lane. Wlfy on Team Rival here, so they've got a nice clear potential, I guess, with the Isis Hunbats combo up against Camazotz Sol. Kind of even, actually.
It should be relatively even, but Dignitas has slightly more range for their poke compared to Camazotz and Hunbats. Hunbats can throw that Furious Monkey, but more than likely you're going to be maxing out that overhand smash anyway, which is not the furthest distance ability in the game.
That's true. A little bit of survivability lacking, I want to say, on the side of Dignitas in one way. I mean, not necessarily survivability, but I guess hard CC is what I'm looking for here. They've got a lot of slows, totally, but hard CC is a little bit limited.
It's going to be very important for Variety to find the right targets with his slows and keep the right members tethered tethered and try to mitigate some of that damage. But like you mentioned before, with all these slows coming out of Dignitas, I wouldn't be surprised if Rifle eventually go for a sprint at level 12.
Well, Arkkyl and Trix are trying to get lane advantage early on, knowing they're against a Geb here in the laning phase, trying to clear it out before Rival can do their jungle. Instead, Rival are going to sit in the duo lane and box them out and have to farm the wave too. It does stop Dignitas going aggressive into the enemy jungle, and Trix, in a lot more poke than he'd like to there, has to use his Brace of Undoing, which I was just about to touch on.
And that's just something that we've seen a lot more often from not only supports, but some junglers as well. If they don't have to worry about any sort of crowd control, if you have a CC immune ultimate such as Sobek, you can afford to go for these less defensive relics such as the Purification Beast and just opt for this Brace of Undoing to not only get the health back, but also those important 3-second cooldown reductions.
Trix cheekily getting in there and managing to strip away one of the babies from that red buff, but Rival doing an okay job in this dual lane for the time being at trying to stay equal. As soon as Trix hits 2 though, he flips Callus in. Callus has the blink available to himself to basically engage these fights. No bracer, but he's not taken that much damage so far.
Leads me to believe that he's going to be looking for that level 5 play during the mid lane, not wanting to really opt for it in the early laning phase. There's not many opportunities to take advantage of a blink pre-level 5 as Geb. You're really relying on that Cataclysm to engage.
And as we mentioned, Dignitas' composition lacking a little bit of hard CC here. Rival though, completely different story, especially when you see that Geb having blink as well for another frontline option.
It's just so easy, I feel like, for Rival to engage.
Yeah.
Not only that, we can potentially see iceicebaby going for the blink, but he did go for the Bracer of Undoing. So if he goes for the blink on top of this, he doesn't have any sort of defensive relics, whether it's the Aegis or the Purification Beads. But because there's not too much crowd control inside of Dignitas, where they lack in one thing, they get in another. They have a crazy amount of burst damage, so Aegises will be very important.
Now Zyrhoes has started off with Aegis in the mid lane for Dignitas too, and against this Geb and the hard CC composition, as long as he can get his Aegis off in time before the hard CC comes through, he should be okay to hit the Disapparate into the Aegis. But if it's mistimed, the knock-up control that they can have coming out from the Geb and the silences can cause him a lot of problems.
He could also maybe go for some crowd control reduction. He could opt for the Ethereal Staff potentially just to mitigate some of that crowd control from the engage of the Cataclysm. And then if he can get off that Disapparate in time, then the Aegis should buy him enough time to go into that corporeal form and then just walk away in a little ball.
Well, the European side of things has been a little bit slower, at least lengthy, I should say, in terms of game time so far as the season has progressed. NA, a little bit, probably around 29-30 minutes, where EU started to creep up a little bit past that now. We've seen longer games, 40-50s even, so far in the summer split. This one, with the start of this so far, looks like it could be on that same sort of pace.
Teams are just recognizing when they can or can't get away with certain objectives, and once they figure that out, the games become way more even at this pacing. So far, Dignitas with Rival in this first game of the set, relatively even. Neither team even opting to go for an early invade.
And the last time we saw Rival, it was on Thursday up against Obey Alliance, where they lost in 10 minutes. And a quick surrender came out from them, but bounced back in game 2, granted, against Obey as well, to take us into a very, very good game. So it's good signs for Rival in one aspect. They've got him through the early game and not got to be surrendering at 10 right now, it seems.
But then you got to keep in mind, they also split against the Poppies earlier on in this split, whereas Dignitas, they only lost against Energy thus far. And their next opponent after Rival in week number 5 is going to be Obey Alliance.
Yeah, rough end for Dignitas at the end of the season, but they've already qualified. That's the main thing for them. Standing in position for the LAN, very important for themselves. Qvo will get his speed buff with help from Zyrhoes and head over to the right-hand side. Deathwalker has it warded, however, so he's just here for farm more than anything else. Still, no kills, but the experience and gold difference is marginally, but still even, slightly in favor of Dig.
Very uncommon to see such an early place ward, especially in the solo lane at around the 4-minute mark. Very disciplined play out of Rival, recognizing that QvoFred will always be going for that speed buff and then potentially poking his head around that solo lane.
Rival, with the composition they've got, though, can get good Gold Fury control with a Fear No Evil and the Circle of Protection. Always a threat to see Rival looking for an early Gold Fury. And Dignitas, some of the members of Dig for sure, have been known in the past to struggle with losing early Gold Fury objectives. Rival may be looking to exploit that with this composition they've drafted.
Looking at both of their compositions, I'm only expecting Rival to be going for early Gold Furies with that Circle of Protection, whereas Dignitas, they would have to rely on lurking in the water, which takes quite a long time to really charge up, whereas Circle of Protection takes a lot quicker of a period of time, so it's very easy for Rival, I would say, compared to Dignitas, to sneak that one away.
Trix is going to head back to base here, finish off his boots, and get a couple of wards for himself too. Those low-nose masks are nearly completed on the 2 supports right now. Callus having a bit of an easier time of getting those stacks, and we'll get that bonus gold and the extra health from that item as time goes on.
We'll also have to keep in mind if these supports will opt to sell it after the 75 stacks once they get that boost of gold, and try to go for a very greedy option here. At 75 stacks, it's not going to take too long here. You're looking at about 12 to 13 waves here, so you're looking at about 6 to 7 minutes to really get those stacks.
Eagles rally from Deathwalker as Variety gets aggressive. Deathwalker felt like he could potentially commit or just slow down Variety's pacing a little bit. No follow-up from either team though, but Variety holds on to his ultimate.
Very important discipline play out of Variety, so now he'll have that slight edge here, whereas the ultimate of the Eagles rally will be about on cooldown for another 60 seconds or so, and that could be enough time to squeeze in this extra wave here. This teleport for Deathwalker is still down for 50 seconds, so as he's coming back to this wave and Variety's clearing the wave with Trixtank, this wave, some of the melee minions will fall under the tower before Deathwalker even gets back there.
And it's not a huge loss, Tolly, but it adds up, right? If that continues to happen, it can put you a little bit further behind in golden experience, which means completing those items takes a little bit longer.
If you can manage to do that in multiple waves, that 50 gold becomes 100 gold, becomes 200 gold, and then eventually you'll be able to out-sustain your opposition here. Both of these soul laners going for the health chalice here, and the Mark of the Vanguard after their starter items, but surprisingly enough here, just now hitting level 9 is Deathwalker.
Yeah, so there's still relatively even between the two. Left on Elementals. Oracles, Harpies, I was looking for them. Like, no, it's Elementals. Going the way of Dignitas, but meanwhile, Rival, 4-man committing to gold. They have Circle of Protection and Fear No Evil, and the Cataclysm from Geb if required, but they get the teleport out of Variety, so immediately disengage, but Variety's going in!
He's going in, Fear No Evil defensively under the tier 1 tower. Great play from Rival because of the vision that they had under the Fire Giant, recognizing that Dignitas were on the right-hand side, but they couldn't sneak away this gold here on the left. They didn't really hard commit with the Circle of Protection, which I really like, not fully committing there, but at the same time, they're now going to lose their speed buff.
Good work from Deathwalker, sorry, from Trixtank, I should say, to cancel out the bludgeon from Deathwalker. Deathwalker has his ultimate back available, and basically Dignitas made that teleport worthwhile by at least getting the speed buff.
That's true. They did get the speed buff, but not having the ultimate from Variety and the teleport should signal Rival to start focusing that soul lane for at least the next minute.
Or maybe see Deathwalker use his teleport to come to the gold Fury, the next possible opportunity.
That could be another option, just to have a little boxing exchange, force Osiris to be at less than 50% health, Bellona back, so then easily Deathwalker can swing that team fight on the left in a 5v4.
Still an even game. Trixtank rotating mid round the back onto 2 members, and there's a Blink Cataclysm from Callus straight away. Knock up on Trix 2, keeps him in trouble. Circle of Protection didn't really do too much damage though, so Trix will be able to walk away, and I think most of that was down to the brace of undoing.
Dignitas winning a team fight in a 2v3. Rival need to really be able to coordinate slightly more efficiently if they're going to win this. You can't be losing in a 3v2.
I mean, they didn't lose anything, but what they didn't do is get kills out of the investment that they put into Trixtank. All they did was get the brace of undoing.
They were getting pushed back under their own tier 1 tower. That's never a good sign when you're the one engaging the 3-on-2 and then you're the ones having to retreat.
Deathwalker on the right hand side, a little bit out of position here, dropping wards down, and Osiris going to put a bit of a beat down. I mean, because Trix is on his way too. Deathwalker has the Eagles Rally available, may need it soon, but he's going back towards iceicebaby, and Iceice will jump in place onto Trix. Bludgeon hits Trix too, and they're going to try and force him to commit. In the end, they get the Circle of Protection and walk away.
They got the lurking in the water out of Trixtank because he didn't have the pluck available to him. You know, it's another objective controller similar to Circle. We were just talking about the Gold Fury. Don't worry about it.
I'm having a special day. Variety, though, going to try and make sure he has an even better day. Lord of the Afterlife onto iceicebaby gets to Fear No Evil.
2 different targets completely out of Dignitas. Variety wanted to go on one, Trixtank on the other. Deathwalker using that Eagles Rally defensively, but I'm not sure if Dignitas were going to hard commit there or not.
I think it was risky, totally, because honestly, with Variety coming in and QvoFred, they've got slows there that could have pinned them down or just picked one of them. So actually using that ultimate from Deathwalker gets his team just away in case Trix also had the pluck available.
You know, QvoFred did have his ultimate, so he could have potentially looked to dive that tier 1 tower on the right, but without the Osiris ultimate, ultimate makes it a little bit trickier on how to really engage if you want to be able to leash the tower aggro every now and then. And without having that passive from the Osiris with that ultimate, he's going to be less resilient to tank those tower shots.
I will say, Tony, I feel Dig are doing a better job so far this game, just because the early game I felt went Rivals' way with the composition they've got. They could snowball it quite heavily. Instead, they've actually stalemated, if not taken a bit of a lead just on superior farming.
That's what it seems to be. It's all about the soloing, honestly. Zyrhoes, though, in a little bit of poke, but with that Disapparate, will retreat. It's iceicebaby in a lot of trouble.
And iceice is one hit from death, and Qvo will claim his life. Finally, first blood. It was Rival that initiated and looked for the play. The blink cataclysm coming out from Callus. But Zyrhoes timed the Disapparate nicely, expecting the pressure potential to come out onto him, and it worked out nicely for Dig.
Zyrhoes masterfully baiting that play into his team's advantage, and now a secondary speed buff invade from Dignitas. They're still not confident to go for this Gold Fury with Wlfy's ultimate potentially stealing it away, so they're going to go for the safer route in the speed buff.
Yeah, bleed buff is just spawning, and I don't think Dignitas recognize that. If they did, they could have taken that on the right-hand side too. So Dig get one kill, and the speed buff invade again, just keeping iceice behind. And I do feel totally, as we've watched iceicebaby through the years for Rival, at least through the season so far, I think whenever he doesn't get his speed, he kind of just falls off. A lot of
junglers do that. Honestly, if you're heavily relying on the mobility of a speed buff and then you can't make the adaptations without it, it's going to be really tricky. You're going to have to rely on your teammates more often, lean on them to initiate the plays while you're kind of staggered in the backline. But what I'm really surprised about is the drafting on Rival, because they purposely let the Susanoo go. They picked Geb before the secondary ban phase just to have Susanoo banned away from them, but iceicebaby, he's known to make so many plays with that god.
Gold Fury started up, but quickly reset as Zyrhoes was rotating around, and good play from iceicebaby to keep the pressure on here. Still only level 9, Callus going to roll in time for a knock-up, but beautifully timed from Zyrhoes to just walk away from that until Vote ends his life.
Ram working out beautifully there. Wlfy with the ultimate, iceicebaby receiving the shield from Callus on the right-hand side. Deathwalker's coming around. Nice little pluck, but it's actually going to be Arkkyl with a wild hunt.
And Deathwalker's Eagles Rally will not manage to keep Callus alive in time. So in the end, it's a 1-for-1 exchange. Variety is teleported in from the solo lane and taking away the red buff right now in favor of Team Dignitas from Rivals Jungle. Gold Fury is still available if one team feels confident enough, and it looks like Dig might.
Dignitas doesn't even need to go for Gold Furies if they keep winning these small little skirmishes and keep getting these invades. It's Deathwalker in a lot of trouble. He doesn't have his ultimate and nowhere to go.
Gets picked off straight away. Nice little puck at our Trixtank, and now iceice and Wlfy are back. No ultimates available for either of them. Camazotz and Sobek on zone duty as Variety and Arkkyl try and bring this down as quick as they can. iceice looking to come in for the steal and take it away, but can't do that. Now he's under pressure. His somersault is down. Nice juke back using the monkey toss, but Variety will still pick him up as Qvo 1v1 in Wlfy is going to force Callus to keep his teammate alive.
Great play out of Dignitas. They picked off Deathwalker before. They forced out the circular protection in that earlier team fight, so there was not real steal potential coming out of Rival, and this is the safe and calculating play that we're expecting from the top European team.
Worked out well for them. And one thing, like I was talking about iceicebaby losing his speed, look at the level difference between him and QvoFred in the jungle. 4 levels is monstrous. Not only that, he's behind or equal to the supports right now.
And the thing is, normally when you have 2 deaths, you're not normally behind only 4 levels. Normally you're behind maybe 1 or 2. You're not behind, but it just seems to me that QvoFred's been all over the place, doing a great job sharing. And the timing of these deaths from iceicebaby, not only has he lost his speed buff twice this game thus far, but every single time he's getting bullied away. So he gets poked out by the long range from Qvo and Zyrhoes, and as a result, every single time he backs the base, that's technically like half a kill anyway that he's not farming.
It's funny because normally at a time like this, I'd be like, guys, you don't have a jungler. You do not have a jungler. Don't count on him to do anything for you. But it is Batz.
True.
And that ultimate is always going to be relevant whether you are level 5 still in the game or you're level 20. That ultimate can change the game completely, at least for some beats.
That's very true. You're looking to really catch somebody against the wall to really maximize the duration of that Fear No Evil and try to get them running in a straight line, and that could really help out Wlfy line up some of his shots here. He's been relatively quiet as well, but as a mid laner, you're really relying on your jungler to set you up.
Good work so far from Deathwalker. Has his Mystical Mail finished. A little bit quicker than that of Variety, who's probably going for the same sort of build here. Picked up the Cursed Ankh here as well. Sorry, is it Cursed? No, it's not Cursed Ankh, is it? It's Horrific Emblem.
Deathwalker, that's the
right.
Cursed. Yeah, he's trying to really get off some of that.
Damn these relics, totally, that just keep changing name every split.
I know, but either way, there's going to be Thorns on Variety as well, really trying to dive that backline. Mystical Mail finished on him. Now working on that magical defense here. We're going to see if he opts to go for that Pestilence or not.
But that Cursed Ankh that we see on Bellona, I mean, realistically, it's only for anti-heal that you want to pick up that item. You look at the enemy squad of Dignitas, it's only really Sustain coming out from a Camazotz, and I guess Sobek self-sustain, that's it.
It's all self-sustain coming out of Dignitas, but it's going to be a lot of trouble as iceicebaby. He did get a speed buff, so he's going to be able to walk away under that tier 1 tower finally into safety, but yet again, he's poked out so much that he's going to have to really be careful about when he engages.
Yeah, Dignitas is starting to turn up the heat, no pun intended, with them having the soul. As they're starting to poke down the podium to half health, Trixtank buying a lot of time for his team, but he's just bit off a bit more than he could chew. Rival will pick up a kill here, making it a 1-for-0, and force Dignitas to reset the podium.
Great Cataclysm out of Callus into the knockup, and this is the thing that supports really have to watch out for, is just the chain CC from this Geb. Even having some crowd control reduction from that Reinforced Greaves is not really enough at this stage of the game until maybe some more defensive items have been finished.
Deathwalker actually not being in this lane right now. Actually, he is in lane. I'm sorry, he's hidden underneath Variety. I was like, Variety's pushed up very far here. Could be about a free tower pressure available for Dignitas to chip down at that tier 1. That is slowly falling down. Deathwalker is losing this tower slowly but surely.
You're not going to stop a Soul Laner at level 15 to get your tower. At this point, with Variety having Mystical Mail, Mark of the Vanguard, he could easily just tank that tower and get it eventually.
And now the fight just continuing between the two. Both of them have ultimates available. And sometimes with these ultimates, it becomes a battle of wits of who's going to use theirs first, because they both give a little bit of a timing window where you can respond with your own. And
I like what Variety did there, using the Thorns for the Bludgeon just to force out Bellona back into base. The teleport is not available for Deathwalker, but Variety's is, so he's going to be making an impact here, either in this tier 1 on the right-hand side or potentially the Portal Demon.
Keep an eye on Wlfy's build coming out here. Is this Ethereal stuff we see on him next, or is that going to be Gem of Isolation?
More than likely, it will be the Ethereal staff. You really want to be able to get that crowd control reduction. It's one of the most underappreciated stats in all of Smite, because we saw what just happened to Trixtank. He died before he can even get off his Bracer of Undoing, and he still had 20% crowd control reduction.
Very true, and keep an eye on the supports, because their second relics are on the way. A little bit further ahead than iceicebaby still as it stands, who's only level 10. But those second relics for the support is very important to see what kind of direction both teams are going to go, and what kind of style of support you're going to see in the game.
Just now hitting level 12 is Callus. iceicebaby still struggling at level 11. Really needs to get that second relic online. It has to be a defensive option. I can't imagine a world in Rival's mind where they could get away with double blink on Callus and iceicebaby.
And QvoFred just freely able to farm around the jungle. Doesn't even have to share every single camp with his team anymore, getting the speed on his own. Now level 15, still a 4-level lead over iceicebaby.
And this is what you really want to see out of your Camazotz in the jungle, because Camazotz from behind is not something you really want to see. He has to be making the plays in the early game, and QvoFred getting MVP status from the last week's worth of European action, he shows yet again why he's considered the best of the best.
Well, Brawler's Beat Stick also picked up by QvoFred on that Camazotz. That'll help him out against some of the sustain coming out from the opposition. Brace of Undoings as well, which we haven't really touched on too much, but anti-heal does affect those. That could be one of the reasons I think we did see that Cursed Ankh coming out from Bellona.
Even Divine Ruin coming out of Zyrhoes, respecting the Bracer coming out of iceicebaby. Also, keep in mind, Circle Protection gives you that big boost of healing, not only the damage reduction and the protections.
Seems like we're going towards sneaky healing now, Toli, as iceicebaby going to meet QvoFred and Trix. But yeah, sneaky healing is what's going to be poked time and time again. I think this is one of the reasons we can see Brace of Undoing maybe start to fall out of competitive play again.
More subtle healing than anything else. It's not very obvious, such as a raw heal or a health sustain, Shango, all that stuff. It's more about being
Camazotz,
greedy.
Sobek.
Yeah, just go for a sustain composition that's single sustain, not necessarily AoE sustain.
Look after yourself, because you can't trust your teammates. That's what it's all about. But if you don't trust your teammates, if you do trust their teammates, then you make sure you get some anti-heal to do with it. And that's what both teams seem to have done here.
It just seems that Dignitas is embracing the ranked mentality lifestyle, and it's working out for them.
Embracing with braces. Did you mean that one or not? 'Cause
No,
that was good.
but that was good.
It was good.
That was good.
We'll take it to the bank. 19 minutes in and only one Wlfy down so far for Dignitas. Still a 5k gold lead their way, though. A lot of that comes down to the kills and the better secure of the enemy jungle.
It's just iceicebaby getting shut down every single time, getting poked out. He can't really engage the way he wants to. That one engagement in a 3-on-2 in mid, I think, was a telltale sign of how Rivals really approached this game, or rather how Dignitas has been able to dictate it, just not giving any opportunity for Rival.
Do you like the aspect of the frenzy picked up by Trixtank here as well? Because if he can find that pluck, he can immediately pop the frenzy and allow his team to go to town and bring down a target. So even if he gets somebody like Callus, like the Bellona, the burst potential increases.
And not only that, he is relying on getting turned on after the pluck, so which is why he went for that bracer at level 1, really trying to min-max and turn things around. Gold Fury is started and completed. Dignitas, just no answer from Rival.
Yeah, nice little pickup, but don't talk about Trix getting turned on. That causes a lot of issues, you know. Callus is in trouble as he gets plucks in. There's the frenzy too, and into the sky goes QvoFred, picks up the kill, and Callus obviously late to the party. We're Rival, and as soon as they do turn up, they get kicked out the door again.
Just nothing Rival can do. They're getting pressured in the mid lane as well, so it's just two different approaches from Dignitas, approaching towards the mid and the Gold Fury, and without any sort of response or answer, now they're going to have to defend the Portal Demon in a 5-on-4.
And without Callus having that initiation, they're going to have to rely on iceicebaby, who is still behind in this game, and he's only level 13 compared to a lot of his compatriots who are 4 to 5 levels above him right now. Portal Demon is not taking long as Trix on zone duty and doing a great job of it too, keeping Ice at bay and securing Dig the Portal Demon.
Beautiful pluck from Trixtank, recognizing that he needed to stay in the backline just to zone away Rival. The only potential steal was either Wlfy or iceicebaby, and those two options was plucked away, and also Tail with no potential walking angle from Rival.
Just methodical from Dignitas this game. That's what he kind of comes across as. He's not really made any mistakes so far in this game. They've not had to, though, because Rival have just kind of given them a window for free, which is let them farm up, don't be overly aggressive, and when we have been, it's been answered back by Dig every time.
And normally, whenever you pick up a Nisus this early in the draft, you want to be able to find a way to really make it work. It's such a great early game goddess, but it hasn't seemed that Rivals found the attacking angles that the Dignitas has left open at all.
4 members strong, our Rival in mid lane as teleport comes out there, sorry, not teleport, Portal Demon used, I should say, by Variety on the right hand side. Bellona is actually over there too, and they're going to try and find the Spirit Ball onto him. Different story though. Qvo takes a lot more damage from those Wingos than he would like to, and you saw the actual anti-heal coming out from Deathwalker there to slow that down. Arkkyl round the back, he's looking to commit and cause more pressure.
Circle protection being popped, chonking away Arkyl's health pool. Variety having to retreat as well, but Trixtank leading the charge, plucking Deathwalker into the thick of things. Variety is going in, Zyrhoes as well.
And Variety commits to the back line now, and it's Wlfy who's on the front line. He was the one that you don't want there. First to fall down in this engagement, and Team Dignitas still pushing on. Frenzy pop to try and chip down the tower using the minions, and they will get what they wanted. The tier 1 tower falls. Rival just have to fall back.
Slow and steady. They saw Deathwalker having to back. They respect the fact that he might have teleport available to defend this tier 2 tower, and with Variety really low, he teleports back in at full health and 5-on-4 advantage as Wlfy's dead for another 20 seconds. Dignitas are going to slow it down by stripping away the red buff. This level 19 Cernunnos for Arkkyl. Very quiet hunter matchup here between Vode and Arkkyl this whole game, but now they're both really online.
And I will say Arkyl's performance this season has been fantastic. He is the most deadly hunter in Europe right now in terms of the stats. A lot of kills, very few deaths, ridiculous amount of assists to his name too. Really making an impact in the Pro League, and he was the member of the team that everyone was probably like, how does he fit into this? Because we've seen all the other guys before.
Exactly. Arkkyl came from Sanguine in Season 3, the team that surprised us all by just even making the Super Regionals, and he was kind of like that all-star player within that team. Similar story with Cherio whenever he was playing the Naja or Kabrakan, but Arkkyl has a bigger god pool than that, and he's able to really flex in this hunter role for Dignitas quite efficiently.
Well, 23 minutes in. Wlfy responds in about a minute and a half's time. Zyrhoes trying to pick up these Harpies on the left-hand side, but a rotation comes in from Rival to cause him a lot of problems. Disapparate and Aegis is down. Snipes are primed, and Vote will pick up the kill. Turns his attention towards Arkkyl as QvoFred was looking to pick up Callus. Rival can fall back with that one pick for free.
A lot of damage there also being dealt onto Dignitas. So Callus taking a lot of poke. Arkkyl having to sustain quite a bit here off of those back Harpies. He's able to get back into the thick of things. His Variety's just going to slapbox Deathwalker on the right, and yet again, Rival, they find a pick, but what are they going to get after the fact? They're
I think that pick's
grouping
good,
up
though.
Can they get it?
Totally, I think that pick's good just because Wlfy's up soon, so we will see Zyrhoes won't have the Aegis available. There's a Frenzy pop. Rival trying to commit to the tier 1 tower without minions just yet, but Variety and Cuvo were just waiting around the corner. Fear No Evil and Eagles Rally both used on Variety, who's still alive, and Lord of the Afterlife's away from the enemy team. Under the tier 1 tower, still managed to fall down. Wlfy will fall to Arkkyl though on the backside, as Rival are in a fight that they don't really like.
QvoFred is going to chase down iceicebaby, needs to connect on one in here, and it's good. 2 for 1 thus far as Variety sacrifices life. Deathwalker trying to do what he can, but it's QvoFred that's going to be able to chase everyone down.
Yeah, the back causing a lot of problems as Arkkyl is looking towards Callus, who will roll away to safety. 3 members pretty healthy from Dignitas here. Wlfy about to spawn, and with Zyrhoes on the way, it's an obvious call.
That's the difference of the timing of the deaths here. They did pick off Zyrhoes, but the Wlfy wasn't responding for about another minute, so it allowed Zyrhoes to get back in here. And whether or not Rival get that tier 1 mid tower, Dignitas would still probably be in a great position to be able to push out Rival to steal away this gold.
I get the call totally from Rival to try and get the tier 1 tower, especially with Zyrhoes being dead. Sol, one of the best clearers of the wave that Dignitas have on their team here. So take him away, try and get a tier 1 tower, but popping the frenzy early, the minions weren't even at the tower line just yet, and it just allowed Dignitas to be like, oh, you're trying to commit for the tower? Well, in that case, we'll engage on you.
It just seems that Rival overestimated their damage potential to be able to really melt that tower. Now, if it was Sol on Wlfy instead of Zyrhoes and they were pushing down that tier 1 mid, then sure. The combination of Rama and Sol would make sense to try to go for it without the minions, but it was just not enough for this level 20 Rama to get it by himself.
Well, at the moment, Paul Demon has just spawned, but ward control is in Dignitas' favor too, so Rival were looking for a cheeky attempt if they could. Bad news is, everybody knows on Dignitas that Rival are hanging around in the area, and I don't think Dignitas would be scared to take another fight.
No, not at all, with Trixtank leading the charge along with Variety, as we see Arkkyl flirting with the idea of the Portal Demon, gonna dissuaded by that Spirit Ball out of Wlfy from the distance, and that's something that Wlfy needs to connect more of. These Spirit Balls need to impact Rival's team fights.
Portal Demon keeps getting reset, but chipped away at by Dignitas. Variety swinging around the corner, looking for potential picks. iceicebaby 5 levels down to that QvoFred now, and still only equal with most of the supports. That's a big impact in this engagement, but the crit is starting to come online for Arkkyl, and you can see some of those starting to swing in as time goes on. They're looking for a pick on Ice. They won't find it, but they will get his somersault off.
Oh, as Callus taking a lot of damage, he's forced to use that Cataclysm very early, shielding himself. The Supernova from Zyrhoes is just going to zone away 2 members on the right while everyone retreats north.
And the north engagement, Deathwalker will Eagle's right to try and keep him alive, but Cuvo's already taken Wlfy's life. Deathwalker's still boxing away, his tricks will pluck him into danger. iceicebaby trying to live as long as he can, but Zyrhoes with the in-hands will bring him down, as Arkyl's in-hands will bring down Deathwalker. 3-for-0 engagement, and Dig can turn their attention to the Portal Demon.
Not only that, but it's going to be the Fire Giant immediately after. They're going to even start it both at the same time. Normally teams will go for the Portal Demon, go back and be healthy, then do the Fire Giant, but with this kind of a lead, 5-on-2, and without the ultimates from Vote and Callus, no potential steal from Rival, clean engagement from Dignitas, clean objectives after the fact.
It just feels Rival did not execute their composition at all this game. They kind of played to Dignitas' game, if anything else. They didn't play like Rival. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't come across that way in this first game. They just allowed Dignitas to do what they wanted to in the early mid-game, and then this lead has just developed over time because they've done that.
It just seems that this Sol pick has been really working out for Dignitas.
That's true.
So much so that they're first picking it here. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rival are looking at this game and like, obviously there's a lot of factors that went wrong for Rival, but at the end of the day, if you take a comfort pick away from Dignitas, that might swing things slowly in Rival's favor, and I would start by looking at Zyrhoes.
It's funny when you say that, Tony, because when you look at Sol right now, damage, 3rd from bottom. Deaths, most on the team, but that is just causing enough of distraction here for Dignitas to win the engagement. Rival are really worried about Sol being an impact in this game, so they're focusing Zyrhoes down, making sure he's not doing much in the team fights, but it's not stopping the rest of Dig because of it.
I mean, you say that they're focusing him down, but honestly, Zyrhoes putting himself out of position almost on purpose because he has that to separate. He has these defensive relics to buy some time, and also having a lot of trust in his teammates to be able to capitalize on all these abilities from Rival.
Well, no messing around right now from Dig, but engage from Callus and Deathwalker straight away, but Callus is near enough already dead. Scratched on his iceicebaby first to fall. Variety closing the gap onto the Geb, and the Geb will fall down soon after. Zyrhoes is to separate, going to close the gap to get him in range and avoid the Spirit Ball damage too, but the Supernova is just so solid. It does nice little work for Cuvo to pick up the kill. Finally, last but not least, it's Vote MBK, who'll take to the sky and look to clean up Cuvo, but with the leaps and the sustain, it's only a matter of time before it's a deicide, and Dignitas win a team fight convincingly.
They have Fire Giants still around their waist for 2 more minutes. Plenty of time to go get this middle Phoenix. If they really want to play it safe, they could go for all 3. But honestly, at level 20 on Arkkyl, you have Zyrhoes to level 20 as well. These 2 hunters will get the Titan.
Yeah, they've got enough tanky targets or sustainable targets to keep themselves alive to end game 1 and give Dignitas an important another point to continue in the standings and put Rival in a hard position now after losing that first game.
Dignitas are showing us why they're considered the strongest European team, at least in the summer split. Finishing second in the spring split, making a real big impact there, and a really good necessary adjustments with their new team. You know, you look at all the players within Dignitas, and there was a similar story to Team Eager in North America in the beginning of Season 3. It's like, can these players work together? But honestly, looking at that game, yeah, everything's clicking.
Well, we mentioned Arkkyl for the amount of kills he gets in games, and Arkkyl yet again had a pretty good performance for himself. The Wild Hunt comes to the rescue to help out his teammates there, and it just put more pressure on them as time went on.
It just seemed to me that he made these rotations at the perfect moment. He didn't have that much of a lead over vote either way. They were just quietly farming away whenever they needed to. They let the action just come to them. Whenever there was a team fight on the right, both hunters rotated towards mid, trying to maximize their farm, and the team fight was like, all right, I guess I'll join in here.
You mentioned adjustments a little bit earlier on, Tolly. Rival, what did they need to change here? Because they went for early game draft, it felt like they never used early game at all.
Well, if you have Susanoo open and you have iceicebaby as your jungler, you might want to give him the Susanoo. He kind of performs pretty well with that guy.
Well, let's see.